Okay, and welcome to another episode of the Healing Business Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. And today I've got the gorgeous Deborah here with me. And can I hand over to you to tell people a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Hi, Holly. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I'm so excited to be connecting with you and your listeners. I just love co-creating with people that are passionate about what they do. The Medicine Woman Collective, I mean, it says it all already. So the passion oozes out of you. So and people have said the same to me. So I always think, hey, let's co-create. So yeah, thank you very much. So my name is Deborah Jane Sutton, and I'm not really sure what I do, but I find myself in this situation. It's kind of like a process, isn't it? And one that wasn't planned, like a lot of us. I don't think when we were growing up, we had on our wish list to do the things that we're doing because we weren't taught that they were available. We also weren't taught that what we're doing now was success. Was success in the eyes of the world? But now we realize that there's a different meaning to success, right? But I kind of started, I've been a school teacher for most of my life, actually, teaching English, and then primary school. I did primary school teaching because I wanted the holidays with my son. And but then I got into it was holistic therapies first. And it was reflexology that drew me to do that, to be honest. So I did a holistic therapy course, and which included Reiki. So then that opened my eyes to the power of energy. And then I got into the emotion code because I understood the power of emotional healing. So I'm an emotion code practitioner. That's one of my biggest passions, I want to say. I teach people how to use it for themselves because it's so simple and so effective. And of course, I was using it all on myself. So as we're going, I'm getting all of this healing as well, And then I studied the body code, and in that it comes up about beliefs and the power of beliefs. And so then I went on and studied Psych K, which is a belief changing modality. And it just all seemed to, for me, it just all seemed to evolve in the right direction. I kind of went from physical to emotional to mental. These are our energy levels, our energy bodies, yeah. And then I got into past life healing and studied soul realignment. And that's where the soul profile comes from, which is like a reading of the soul, so you can see what energies and what gifts and strengths people have, what they came here to experience and express. It's really important for people to understand that because we kind of buried that somewhere along the way. And then after that, I studied yoga, which is my biggest passion as well. And I see yoga as being an umbrella that basically covers the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. So it kind of encompasses all of it. And then my latest passion, which is only a few years old, is tarot. I got into tarot. I don't know how. I just found myself studying it. I devoured the course. And it's the tarot that's really made me realize that I'm channeling. That's when I realized, I mean, we're all channeling, right? With our thoughts and our intuition, but it was the tarot that's really pushed me ahead with that. So when you say, what do I do? I don't really know. I use all of them. I tune into people and we see what they need the most at that time. One of the things I do most of is heart wall healing, because it's all about opening the heart. That's part of the emotion code. The soul profile readings are big as well because of people needing to know where they're going or who they really are. And then, of course, the tarot, which helps me channel the guidance that's, to help people. So, yeah, and I think the best way to see what I do is to actually look at my YouTube channel because I've got the readings, the weekly readings, the monthly readings. I've got a whole section on lessons in awakening, which I was inspired to do that, a whole series on lessons in awakening to the power of who we really are. I've got a whole section on self-healing, loads of free content on learning self-healing techniques that people can use there and then, and then I've got a section on interviews and stuff. And like I said earlier before we were recording, I've got a section on self-mastery with my good friend and mentor, Liz Nagel. So there's a lot on there. I've even got 4 videos in Spanish, but
wow, that is impressive.
Well, no, they're not when you look at them. What I sometimes do is I get inspired just to do a video for my clients, right? Because I can't find one on YouTube that says what I want it to say. So I'll just do one for my clients. And putting it on YouTube is the easiest way to share it with people. So I've got quite a few that are on there which are specifically for clients. But once it's on there, people obviously, it's, are free to see it. So, but anyway,
wow.
So hopefully that answered your question, Holly.
Completely. And there's so much there that I'm intrigued and want to know more about, definitely. But before we go into that, what I'd love to know is, do you feel like for you personally, there was, because I know you said you're into teaching and then went into this world, do you think there was some kind of, was there a catalyst, or was there something within you? What do you think brought you in? What do you think was the thing within you that led you down this journey?
The healing. I think there's a number of things really, and I don't think they're physical. I think one, because those of us that are in our tribe, so to speak, we're Starseeds, and I'm a big fan of Dolores Cannon. And have you read the book The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth?
No, I haven't.
Right.
But
Well, you've heard of it.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I've had a couple of people mention her to me recently, so perhaps it's something I need to look into, clearly.
And if you prefer to listen to videos rather than read books, she does on YouTube. If you put in Dolores Cannon, The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth, she's got a couple of videos where she talks about the book. So if you're a reader, then get the book. But if you're not a reader, there's still ways of getting that information. And it resonated with me like completely that these 3 waves of volunteers have come in since the Second World War. And I know that I'm an Arcturian starseed, and I've known that for years, and it resonated with me straight away. Although, funny enough, I haven't talked openly or in public about it since this year. I mean, until this year. I had 3 days of solitude, which, as far as I'm concerned, was the greatest therapy I could ever have had. I actually started not thinking at all, which I didn't realize I wasn't thinking until after the event. You know what I mean? Because I had to think it, if you see what I mean. And during those 3 days, I actually went onto Facebook and started doing free Akashic record readings for people so they could find out what star group of origination they're from. If I was in like a thinking mode, limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs and all that, I wouldn't have done that, because I would have thought, I've got people on Facebook that they're going to think I'm crazy if I'm talking about, all these things. But of course, the right people resonate at the right time with the right thing. The people that aren't into that, they're not going to even see it. And so I've had no comeback whatsoever. And I know that it served me and everything else. So I am a big fan of helping people through Akashic record reading. That's one of the things I do with the soul profile, to find out what star group of origination we're from. Some people aren't into it. It really served me because, first of all, I knew I wasn't from here. I always felt I didn't belong, like a lot of people. I come from a family that are also different from me. I love them all. They're very supportive and everything else. But, I've always wondered, I've always been searching, and they don't even understand what I'm searching for. And I'm like, well, the meaning of life, and everyone just laughs at me. But the Starseeds have been doing this, and it's because we're not really from Earth, and it's because we have incarnated at this time of the Great Awakening in order to bring this higher level of consciousness to Earth and to help raise the consciousness level of humanity. I mean, that's what we've come here to do. And it starts, doesn't it, with this healing that we're doing. And the healing is on all sorts of different levels, in all sorts of areas, the feminine healing that you do. And, you know, the emotional healing that I do. I mean, it's all relevant. And we've all got our uniqueness within that. And there's no, sometimes you think, well, we're coming to this understanding that we're all one, and then you go into the non-physical world and suddenly we're all separated again. You know, I'm Arcturian, they're Syrian, they're Palladian, but it's not like that, because they all work together, and it's just an extension of who we really are, because we're all source, right? We're all source energy. But we've chosen to experience ourselves through different realms, I want to say, and through different consciousnesses. And clearly my soul has chosen to learn a lot about myself through the Arcturian consciousness. And that's the way I look at it. It doesn't mean that, you know, I'm originally from there, because we're all originally from source. But it's like traveling around the world, isn't it? And then spending a lot of time in Spain, like I have, and then resonating with a lot of the Spanish culture. It's like that. And then there are some countries that I don't resonate with so much, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I know I've gone off on a tangent now.
No, I
But
love that. And I'd love to hear about these different starseed groups. What, like, could you tell us a bit more about that? You know, what are those groups, and how do they,
well,
how are they different?
there are loads and loads of them, and I don't know all of them, but I got this all from the soul realignment, soul healing modality. That's where it originally came from. But I'm hearing so many soul groups now that are not on the chart from that modality, so I just add them to the chart. And it's really funny how the universe works, because I'll find out another star seed, you know, another soul group, and I'll research the characteristics and traits of it, add it to my chart, and then of course the very next client that I get will be from that. And it's just like there's powers that are beyond our human comprehension that are going, like, give Deborah this information now, inspire her to study and research this star group, because then we're going to send this person that needs to hear this information. Do you know what I mean? It's just, we don't have to make any effort at all, do we? We can just follow our inspiration and it happens. But yeah, the star, I mean, if you want, we can find out where you're from, if you don't know already.
I don't know. I would love to know. That would be fabulous. Yeah.
Do we want to do that while on camera?
I don't know, do we?
I don't know. We'll go for it because it's come up. So if it's come up, then but I just have to find the chart, right? So do you know anything about any of the main ones?
Not really, no. I've heard the term. I don't know much about it. It's yeah, very different to some of the schools of thought that in terms of like my background. In terms of my background, I started off in a Zen Buddhist route in terms of like my healing practice, and then that led to me discovering energy, which then led to Reiki, and then that energy work went over into Ayurveda so I could understand the energy of plants, the energy of food, the energy of the seasons, and the energy of life cycles. And so my theme has been energy throughout, but there's been very much a Buddhist Vedic background as opposed to anything like this. So I'm fascinated.
Galactic
yeah.
one. Well, the way I look at it is there are so many paths to enlightenment. There are so many roads to Rome, so many paths to enlightenment. And we just all choose whichever one. You know, it's like yoga. I mean, I think yoga is a motorway to enlightenment, but you know, but everyone has like plant medicine, or you know, and obviously Ayurveda and stuff like that. These are all what I call, that's a motorway to enlightenment, isn't it? And there are some paths that we stay on a little while, and there are some paths. I mean, tarot for me is a massive path, you know, to enlightenment. So, and I do think that's why I said it's not for everybody, the galactic families. Not everybody is into it.
But I have a similar philosophy, and like the way I describe it is they're all paths up the same mountain, right? That it's like it doesn't matter what path you take as long as you're heading up the mountain. So you take the path that resonates with you, or that makes sense to you, don't you? But well, I find all the paths fascinating. That's my problem.
There are, yes, exactly. But then again, you have to choose. For example, like recently, especially as I am so into tarot, I understand the connection with astrology, for example, right? So there's a connection between tarot and astrology. So I start looking into astrology and picking bits and pieces up. Now that's a motorway to enlightenment, I think, as well. And so I bought a couple of books, and I'm like reading through them, and I have little moments of wanting to read, and then I have like some resistance, and I think, well, that's not like tarot. With the tarot, I devoured it.
Yeah.
So I was like, am I meant to be studying this? Am I not? And then I met someone who was really into astrology, and now we've become friends. And it's like, and I've got another friend who studies gene codes. So between us, I do the soul profile and the tarot. She does the gene codes. She does the astrology. And it's like honoring those that are more passionate, you know? It's like the plants and stuff, like you said, the life cycles and the plants. You know, I did my vegetable patch. It's not my forte. It's not my strength. You know, I know that. I did it because we all want to have a go at that. And it really served me. I talked to the plants talked to me. I learned a lot. But it was like a little side road towards enlightenment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When I left the vegetable patch, it was like I just felt this urge to honor and give gratitude to the people that have made growing plants their motorway to enlightenment. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, but it's interesting, isn't it? How like you were saying, that one thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. So like you were saying, like my thing at the moment that I'm down the rabbit hole of is because of the herbalism side of Ayurveda, which I love, absolutely adore, and working with the energetics of plants. I've now gone down into the shamanic plant medicine side of things, and that is, I'm loving that, just seeing the different ways that's been used across the world, and how we can use that to increase our consciousness. So, but like you say, it's funny how you get, it's like one thing that leads to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Before you know it, you're on 20 different paths at the same time, but gaining wisdom from all of them, you know.
But they are connected. I mean, already just from what you're saying, without tuning into you, I do need to tune into you if we're going to find your galactic family. But I can already tell that you're dominant in second energy center, which is divine creation, and dominant in fourth energy center, which is divine love and healing. So what you're doing, which is why you're so excited about it and serving humanity so beautifully, I want to say, is because you're putting your dominant qualities together. So the second energy centers they're the gardeners, they're the plant people, they're the tree huggers, they're the ones that are really connected to their physicality. So they often use their physical body. They'll be doing yoga, tai chi, qigong, things like that. And they help other people connect to their physicality. And then the fourth energy center, divine love and healing, is not something they do. It's just who they are. They just hold that space, and they're just driven by love. And sometimes it overwhelms them. And the love that they have for others it wakes me well up as well, talking about it when I'm talking to someone that has that dominance, you know. Now, if you put the two together, this is where we get our uniqueness from, because there'll be other people dominant in this, other people dominant in this, but you get your uniqueness by putting it together. And that's exactly what you've just said, because you're putting the healing with the plants. Okay, so you're using the plants, and you're using their energy and their properties and their qualities for healing purposes, and then you're holding space for that. Because if you talk about plant medicine, especially if you're the shaman or what have you, that's holding space. It's literally holding space for people to maximize the potential of plants. That is a perfect, what I call abundance activity, because it's going to raise your frequency, expand your level of consciousness. It's going to give you the health, the happiness, the joy, you know, and you can use it for financial, security as well, of course, if people need to. But you're doing that by using the qualities of your dominant energy. Does that make sense? But this is why we're all so unique, because my dominant ones are completely different, right? Because that's why my vegetable patch didn't work, right? But it worked, but it isn't my main thing, you see. I'm dominant in truth and self-expression, which is seeing the truth of who I am, seeing the truth of who other people are, seeing the truth of how the universe works. You know, it's about divine truth, helping people see the truth of who they really are, and also self-expression, talking, channeling, teaching. They're the teachers, the channelers, and yeah, the ones that are focusing on self-expression and helping other people express themselves. You know, so two completely different dominant ones, but we're still working together to serve humanity in our uniqueness. So you can see the unity there, the unique, our uniqueness within the unity. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. And it's one of the things that, you know, I say to my clients when we're going through, like coaches of Ayurveda, when they're going through their qualifications as part of the Medicine Woman Collective. One of the things I try to remind them is, you're not here to be another me. You're here to be another you. Do you know what I mean? It's that it's you that makes you magic. It's you that people will resonate with, and it's beautiful when you start seeing, you know, and you must get this with your clients, when you start seeing people really own who they are and really step into that magic of who they are. I mean, that's when life changes, right? That's when everything starts coming together.
Of course. And that's why there's no competition in the paradigm
Yeah.
that we're creating, you know, because everyone is so unique in the way that they're presenting themselves. But I mean, from a quantum perspective, there is only us, right? And everybody else is a reflection of a part of that. So it is kind of, you know, yeah, it kind of makes sense that we are so unique. And the thing is, though, our abundance lies in our uniqueness. And when you look back at school, where we were so programmed to conform, and not only were we programmed to conform, but we chose to, we wanted to, we didn't want to be the odd one out. You know, it was the most negative, humiliating thing to be the odd one out. I mean, how did we create that? We really have turned it upside down, haven't we? Well, no, we haven't. We've turned it back the right way up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's because I've made the decision to homeschool my son now, my youngest. And I was talking to someone about this the other day, and she was saying, like, it's amazing the amount of people don't realize this is even an option, you know, to homeschool. And she was saying, so what really led to that decision? And I could just see this pattern of self-confidence being eroded away, and joy and pleasure in reading and writing and doing things that actually are enjoyable if you allow people to, or allow children to just have fun with it and just play with it and write stories that are creative and, you know, create those pieces of artwork that make no sense, and but just for the sheer hell of it. I think if you allow children to do what resonates with them, they will find their path and confidence quite quickly.
And they will teach us so much as well on the way. Yeah. And that's the bit that, yeah, you're completely right, Holly. I agree with you 100% on that. As somebody who worked on the inside, I know, I saw, and promoting children's innate, divine, you know, creativity is not high on the list of things to do. And it got to the stage where trying to do that, the people that were, what was stopping me from being a better teacher was the people I was working for, was the school. And I don't just mean one school. I've worked in a few schools. I'm not dissing a particular, you know, establishment, but I'm just saying that the system is what was stopping me from serving the children more divinely. And it comes a time when you just, you know, you just know. But yeah, exactly. And I also, because I didn't really appreciate this at the time, until afterwards, the difference between teaching English to foreigners and primary school teaching, you know, it was an easy transition to make. And yet I loved this, never quite gelled with this. And now looking back, I can see why, because when you are teaching someone to use the English language, the content of your lessons are all relevant to them their life, their passions, what they want to do with the language. You're actually helping someone express themselves more globally. And that's a beautiful thing to do. And you take your lead from them. Whereas the primary school teaching was kind of completely the opposite. It was literally coming in from the opposite direction. And I often used to ask, how do people, because I was in a British school in Spain, which was following the British curriculum, but I had Spanish children. And I often used to think, how does someone creating the British curriculum in London know what little Pedro in front of me in Spain needs? You know, it didn't make sense. And then I kind of saw the you know, the lack of benefits, shall we say, of you know, the way the whole system worked. It was very much, as you say, indoctrination. It was indoctrinating them. It was this conformity. There were times when I was talking to parents. I had this beautiful girl in my class who we would call a B grade student. She had an A in art and a C in maths, and the rest were all Bs. So she was, you know, a B grade student. And the parents wanted her to go to maths school all summer to get her maths grade up. And I just remember begging them to put her into art school all summer. And they just kept saying, but she's already got an A in art. She doesn't need it. And I was like, if you want a happy, healthy, thriving child, just let her do art all summer. It will make, you know, but they didn't see it that way, you know. And but that's what I think you're talking about. Just let the kids lead the way. And we really need to listen to them more. That's come up quite a lot. I do weekly and monthly messages on my channel with the cards, and it comes up quite a lot lately about we need to listen to the children, because they're the third wave of volunteers that have come in. They're starseeds. The reason they're so sensitive is not because they're lightweights or snowflakes or anything like that. It's because they are already equipped with the light codes and the DNA that they need in order to carry out heaven on earth. You know, we're kind of paving the way for it, but they're the ones that are going to be living and sharing and loving in heaven on earth. And they're not designed for the density of the world that you know that we were brought up in, you know. So I think it's
I mean,
to listen to them.
We weren't designed for it, were we? To the point of, you know, we had to be conditioned to like even take part in that. I don't know about you, but I had a lot of conditioning that I had to unravel.
Well, yeah, and we were considered rebellious, weren't we?
Yeah.
We were often considered the black sheep of the family, and we were the ones that traveled, of course. Yeah. It's because we were looking for home. We realize now, I know, I'm tourists, I'm there, it's okay.
That makes a lot of sense. That seeker, I mean, I've always been a seeker, whether that's like physically traveling or traveling through knowledge or traveling through meditations or journeys or what have you. But yeah, that sense of constantly seeking has always been there, been a theme throughout the life.
Definitely. So with that said, do you want to seek your soul group?
Yeah, go on, let's go for it.
Yeah, can I just take your date of Syrian?
Ooh,
have you heard of Sirius? Have you heard of Sirius?
Yeah, but I know nothing about it.
Well, Syrian starseeds, actually, funny enough, they do struggle to connect with their with the Syrian consciousness, because the Syrian consciousness is in the 12th dimension, and it's a bit like, imagine when you're back at school, right, and you're in like the 4th year, which we're basically in 4D, if you see what I mean. You can access the curriculum in the 5th year. You can probably access some of the curriculum in the 6th year, right? Which is why we can access 5th dimensional levels of consciousness. Our passed over loved ones are usually in the 6th dimension. Our spirit guides are usually in the 6th dimension or the 7th dimension, which means we can access that. That's why when we lose somebody, we often feel them, and we can often have that, you know, because it's kind of accessible. But the 12th dimension is like trying to access the curriculum of year 12 when you're in year 4, and so that's one of the reasons. Whereas the 9th, my Arcturians, very possessive. That's very un-5D-ish. But anyway, the Arcturians are in the 9th dimension, so they're slightly easier to access, if you see what I mean. So that's one of the reasons, because I do find that Syrians tend not to have found their connection. But if you choose, and it's obviously all up to you, you have free will, you do what you like. But if you did want to strengthen that connection for the purpose of accessing higher levels of consciousness, I would recommend that you meditate in a pyramid of light, but your second energy center, so you don't like sitting still to meditate, probably. You probably like moving or gardening.
Well in meditation. So,
Say that again?
Meditation has served me well. It's been my predominant healing modality throughout my journey. So,
and do you sit still for it, or do you move for it?
No, I sit still.
Oh, you do sit still. Okay.
I start, like say, I started with Zen Buddhist meditation, and it's masculine in its approach in terms of you sit still and you do not move. And you know what? I needed that. I needed that structure. It kept me in line.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's good. There's that element of discipline there as well, which is obviously, I would call that self-mastery. Is the positive polarity of discipline, isn't it, rather than the negative polarity. But the reason I said that is because normally second energy centers are very physical people, and they tend to connect with their highest self when they are using their physical body. So either through yoga or jogging or swimming or walking or hiking, or absorbed in gardening or something like that, or absorbed in making something. They're the people that make with their hands, so some kind of craft or something like that.
I did pottery.
There you go. Exactly. So while you're doing that, you're absorbed in your creative flow, and any ideas or inspirations that come to you in that moment will be from your higher self, so you need to heed them. That's usually the case for second energy centers, but of course we can master sitting still. But yes, so if you want to access higher levels of consciousness, then you can meditate in a pyramid of light, is what I was thinking. And then you can just invite the Syrian consciousness in. It's just using your free will, because kind of what happened, this is the way I look at it, and this is what Dolores Cannon said, and it really resonated with me, was that we weren't brought up to believe in the galactic realms, and anyone that did was humiliated, basically. And I think that was to keep us distant, because the trouble is the galactic realms are there to help us, but they can't help us unless we ask, because we have free will. And we have to use our free will to ask, and you shall receive. But if you don't know that you have this connection to the galactic realm, you're never going to ask. That's why the galactic realms got starseeds to incarnate on Earth, to help raise the consciousness level from the inside. You see what I'm getting at? So with the Syrian consciousness, Syrians often don't feel very creative, although you are, because you're dominant in second. But because they don't normally create from scratch, they normally take something that already exists and then make it better. So maybe like the clay, you take the clay and then you make it beautiful. So they didn't invent the wheel, but they made the wheel rounder and faster and more efficient. You see what I mean? And they're very good at revamping something. They're very good at taking something and making it better, and making it more useful, making it more relevant, and stuff like that. They're very organized, and they're very methodical. And they actually don't mind hierarchical organizations as long as they are for the highest good of all, and not the ones that we were brought up with. But Syrians, there's powerful energy. The energy that comes in at the Lionsgate portal in August, that's Syrian energy. So I often find in August that I come across Syrians. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, because I had a kind of a funny August, if I'm honest, and then something changed. Like I felt a shift in energy about last week, and I don't know whether that was with I mean, Mercury went into retrograde, didn't it? And then we had the changeover.
Venus has been in retrograde all of August.
So it could have been that, but I'd felt very in my feminine, very scattered, not contained. And then about a week ago, it's like my masculine kicked in after a long break. I was like, oh, back on it now. And it was a relief. I was like, oh, good, I can get things done. You know. So yeah, interesting. Oh, fascinating. I'm gonna have to
I will send you some more information about the Syrian energy. I mean, it depends how far you want to go with it. I have friends that are Syrian starseeds, and there are Facebook groups there's Facebook groups for Arcturian, Syrian, and Palladian all together, because we are actually working all together at the moment in the non-physical realms. Yeah, you can find out more, find out other people that are Syrian starseeds as well. I work a lot with Syrian starseeds. But it's just understanding that it's, for me, it's a way of tapping into higher levels of consciousness. And I've had some amazing experience. I mean, I had voices in my head, quite literally, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't think about it at the time because I was having obviously an experience. And when I went to tell a friend about the experience that I had, I kind of levitated through a swarm of bees. It was kind of really weird. But when I went to tell a friend about it, I thought I was going to say God, because I didn't know what other voice it was in my head. But then when I spoke to her, the word Arcturians came out of my mouth. And my human, Deborah, didn't know that. It shocked Deborah, right? And it was coming through me. And then I had felt this wave of energy flow through me. And I was like, it was self-realization. When we realize something on that level, it kind of really does something to us. And of course, I just cried, because that's what happens to me when I get like the truth bumps, or, the tears come that tell me that there's truth in what's just happened. And then I realized that the voices in my head are coming from Arcturian consciousness, which is just an extension of who we are, to be honest. We don't want to focus on the separation. We want to focus on the fact that we are the whole universe in one human being. But because we're having a human experience, it really helps us to feel like that little child. It's the human in us that wants to be loved and nurtured and looked after. So Deborah, my human, because we are not obviously Holly and Deborah, right? We're eternal beings of love and light, and Holly and Deborah are doing a grand job, right? But it's like, I can go all kind of human and, oh, my Arcturians are looking after me. I mean, at the end of the day, it's me looking after me. But it just helps personify. It's like we personify the energy. You talked about everything being energy, of course. We personify the energy for the purpose of integrating it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I was talking about a similar theme actually with one of my clients today, about how sometimes energy is easier for us to understand when we have an archetype associated with it, or some kind of, like the Hindu gods and goddesses, we can connect into that energy once we see the personification of it. It's a lot easier to invite that in, right? Or to embody that, or to integrate that within us.
That's but like you say, in Ayurveda and in your Vedic, there's all sorts of gods and beings with qualities, and they represent, whether it be Shiva and the destruction, or whether they represent this or that. They are just energies. It's the same with the angels. It's the same with the archangels. It's the same with, all of it, the elementals, the whole lot. They're just energies. And what we're doing is same with spirit guides, to be honest, because I used to do spirit guide readings. And sometimes I would get an image, but they would present themselves with an appearance for the purpose of me to relay that to the client so that they can resonate. Because the client, but there's something in the appearance that would help the client resonate. And if the client resonates, then they can access it. You see what I'm getting at? But at the end of the day, it's all just wishy-washy energy, isn't it?
It is. But it helps us to understand it, doesn't it? When we have that image, that imagery, it's useful, like you say. So in this paradigm then of the star seeds and these different levels, is there a God at the top of it? What's the belief system around that? Is that included, or or is that not talked about in that paradigm?
Dolores Cannon talks about it all the time. She actually refers to it as the subconscious because her work was like decades ago, and she comes from a hypnotherapy background, whereby, of course, with hypnotherapy, we do refer to talking to the subconscious. So she refers to it, and then she was working with clients and then managed to tap into this higher wisdom. So in all her books, she refers to it as SC, the subconscious, but it is source. It's source. It's the all that is. I mean, I don't have all the answers, Holly. I'm still exploring. I'm exploring all of this along, we're all exploring this. But my perception of it is that there's the all that is, and everything is in the all that is. And the all that is energy vibrating at certain frequencies. And everything exists. Absolutely everything exists. We can't not exist something because we can't kill energy. We can't stop energy. It's going to keep moving in cycles, but we can transmute it. We can transmute it from one form into another. So, everything already exists, but you are only going to experience that which you resonate with. So that's why everything's happening in the now. Like your dreams exist, but we're not experiencing them because we're not resonating with them yet. You see what I'm getting at?
Perfect. Yeah, I completely understand that. And I mean, I saw that in my own journey, that as my frequency changed, so did my external reality, and things that I'd been working hard on all of a sudden started working. It's amazing how that does happen. But if you're operating at a higher frequency, you're not in survival, are you? You're in that you just see the opportunity, and it's a lovely.
You're in your flow. You're in your divine flow, and you actually don't need to do anything because life comes to you.
Yeah.
You do the inner work, and then life comes to you.
Yeah.
It's easy.
So I'm just conscious of time. God, that has gone so quickly. I could talk to you all day about like most of this. I know you were going to do a card reading before we wrap up. So
do you want to, or do we not have enough time?
No, go for it. I would love for you to
okay, so this will be for anybody listening.
Yeah.
We'll just do a quick one. Can we have some guidance? I'm going to put some of them back. There was too many to do for a quick reading, but it means that they're chatty. That means that yeah. We've got all these things we want to say. So let's go. I'm just checking that I tuned out of you, because I was tuned into you. There we go. That one wants to come up. Oh my God. Do we have another one? Too many. Do we have another one? Thank you. Oh, wow. Do we have another one? Wow. 3 is the magic number. Let's just do that. Otherwise, it will go on forever.
Okay.
2 major arcanas to start with. This is Archangel Gabriel, the archangel of messengers, waking up the dead, raising the consciousness level of humanity, judgment card. This is the life purpose card. So this is a reminder because anyone listening to your work, Holly, will be Starseeds as well. So this is a reminder that we do have a purpose. The purpose actually isn't in doing. The purpose is in being, being who we just naturally are. And it's not even being who we want to be, because we've got to be careful where that want comes from. Because often that want will come from, funny enough, I did the cards, the messages for the month of September, and this came up in that, because often our wants will be from our programming, because we want the approval of our parents. We want the things that we thought that we needed, or the things that we thought we wanted at school and stuff like that. So it's best not to have any desires and just float in the universal consciousness, like a feather in the wind. And it will take you to what you're meant to do. I think I'm a very good example of that, because I'm running the garden retreat, which just was born out of me with no planning. I had no idea I was going to do it. my whole life just went upside down. I had an inner knowing that I was being taken to my higher potential, because I was affirming, and here's a lovely affirmation for you and your listeners. I am ready and willing to allow my full potential. I am ready and willing to allow my full. Well, I was affirming that for a while, and then my life went upside down. So be careful. Your life can go upside down because we're clearly not fulfilling our full potential. And in order to get there, my life had to go upside down. And then the garden retreat was born, which was amazing. And I had no idea that it was going to satisfy me and fulfill me, and make me as happy and abundant and everything as I am. So I often say to people, be careful not to want, actually. Just do what makes you feel good and have that inner knowing. But this is a reminder that we do all have a purpose to be who we came here to be. And that being is unique. It's unique. So it is about self-realization, getting your birth chart read, getting things like that to really find out whether you use human design, gene keys, soul profiles that I do, whatever it is, just so that you know more about who you came here to be. That's really important. And our next one, and don't be afraid of this, is the death card. But this is the card that we've needed more than anything at this time, because horses are actually positive movement forward. And there's the dawn. This is the dawn of a new age, of a new way of being, a new way of living. And the death, this is the death of, whether it could be the death of the ego, it's the death of all these things that are not serving us. So it could be the death of what's in the matrix, the systems, the school system, which, wasn't serving us. And in order to grow, if these things didn't come down, we wouldn't be pushed to create the new. So we need to get rid of old energy in order to start the new. So the death card is very important. So whether you look at it from on a collective, level, or whether you look at it from inside, it's the death of our belief system, the death of the limiting beliefs. As I said, the death of the ego, the death of our expectations, our judgments. It's so many things that we're letting go of in order to allow new. And this is the new coming in. Pages are new opportunities and new offers coming in, and swords are air. So it's mental processes, thoughts, beliefs, ideas, inspiration. We've got inspiration coming in, and it's new inspiration because we didn't know that we could live like this. We didn't know that we could be as happy as this, and we didn't know that we could create heaven on earth, but we can, and we're doing it, and it's here right now. And it's following our inspiration that is doing it for us. We need to follow that inspiration, like meeting online and then choosing to do a podcast and not having a clue what we're going to say, but just knowing that there's something beautiful going to come out of it. So they're 3 very beautiful cards. So thank you for letting me read those right now. You can see how excited I get.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking as you were describing all of that, just your energy is beautiful and your passion shines through. And yeah, it's wonderful to watch you get so joy filled as you talk about these things. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. What a pleasure it's been.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you as well. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in spreading the word and promoting people that are, the starseeds that are changing the world at the moment. I honor you and I honor all of them.
And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And I feel like you need to come back on in another 6 months and we'll dive into all the other modalities that you do, because there was so much I wanted to ask you, but we can arrange that another time. But so thank you everyone for listening, tuning in. We will be back next week. I say we, I mean me, next week for another episode. And take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.